Good evening, I'm Adil, and tonight, we're going on a journey. It's a journey not across miles but through time, told through the silent, towering sentinels of American history. We'll be taking a detailed look at 10 of the most iconic monuments in the United States. These aren't just tourist attractions or photo opportunities, they are the physical embodiment of the nation's ideals, its struggles, its triumphs, and its enduring complexities. They are markers of moments that have defined a country, built by hands that believed in an idea of America. Each of these structures, from the shores of New York Harbor to the Black Hills of South Dakota, represents a unique and pivotal chapter in the American story. They speak of revolution, of civil war, of westward expansion, and of the ongoing pursuit of a more perfect union. They are symbols of freedom, democracy, sacrifice, and innovation. They are places where history was made and where it continues to live, breathe, and be debated. They are, in many ways, the conscience of the country, cast in bronze and carved in stone. So tonight, we're going to go beyond the postcards. We'll delve into the details, the stories behind the construction, the meanings embedded in their designs, and the legacies they carry. We'll explore why these specific places continue to resonate so deeply, not just with Americans, but with people all over the world. This is a journey to understand the soul of a nation, one monument at a time. Let's begin. Our journey begins in New York Harbor, with a figure that has greeted millions, her torch held high, the Statue of Liberty. She is perhaps the most universally recognized symbol of America, but her story begins across the Atlantic, in France. Conceived by Édouard de La Boulaye, a French political thinker, she was intended as a gift to the United States to commemorate the alliance between France and the U.S. during the American Revolution. It was a grand gesture meant to celebrate the centennial of the Declaration of Independence and the enduring principles of liberty. The task of bringing this colossal vision to life fell to the sculptor Frédéric Auguste Bartholdi. He envisioned a powerful yet serene female figure drawing inspiration from the Roman goddess of liberty, Libertas. The engineering, however, required another master. Gustave Eiffel, the man who would later give Paris its iconic tower, designed the statue's intricate iron skeleton. This internal framework was a marvel, allowing the thin copper skin to stand tall and withstand the fierce winds of the harbor, a testament to 19th century innovation. Every element of Lady Liberty is steeped in symbolism. Her crown's 7 spikes represent the 7 continents and 7 seas, a nod to the universal concept of liberty. In her left arm she cradles a tablet, a keystone, inscribed with the date of American independence, July 4, 1776, grounding her in a specific historic moment of liberation. This isn't just a statue, it's a legal and philosophical document rendered in copper, a constant reminder of the nation's founding promise. And then there is the torch. Held aloft in her right hand, it is a beacon of enlightenment, lighting the way to freedom and away from the darkness of tyranny. For the more than 12 million immigrants who sailed past her on their way to Ellis Island, that torch was not an abstract concept. It was a profound, personal promise of a new beginning, of hope, of a life free from oppression. It was the first sight of a new world, and for many, the most powerful. Standing at 305 feet from the ground to the tip of her torch, she is more than a monument. She is a narrative. At her feet lie broken shackles and chains, a potent symbol of the abolition of slavery and the triumph over oppression, a detail often missed by visitors below. She is a complex figure, representing an ideal that the nation has not always lived up to, but one it continually strives for. She is a promise, ever present, ever watchful in the harbor. From the coast we travel inland to the Black Hills of South Dakota, a land sacred to the Lakota Sioux. Here, carved into the very granite of a mountain, is a monument of staggering scale and ambition, Mount Rushmore National Memorial. It is a testament to the first 150 years of American history, embodied by 4 of its most consequential presidents. The faces, each about 60 feet high, are etched into the landscape, visible for miles, a permanent fixture in the American imagination. The vision belonged to a South Dakota historian named Doane Robinson, who hoped to create a tourist attraction to boost his state's economy. But it was the sculptor, Gutzon Borglum, who elevated the concept. He chose the 4 presidents, George Washington for the nation's birth, Thomas Jefferson for its westward expansion, Abraham Lincoln for its preservation through civil war, and Theodore Roosevelt for its development and conservation. For Borglum, these 4 men represented the founding, growth, preservation, and development of the United States. The creation of Mount Rushmore was a monumental feat of engineering and artistry, taking 14 years to complete from 1927 to 1941. Borglum and his team of 400 workers used dynamite to blast away over 450,000 tons of rock, followed by a process called honeycombing to get closer to the final surface. It was dangerous, painstaking work. The fine details of the presidential faces were then carefully carved and smoothed, creating expressions that seem both stoic and alive. The sheer scale is hard to comprehend. The mountain itself, once known to the Lakota as the Six Grandfathers, now bears the likenesses of men who presided over a nation that displaced them. This is a crucial and complex part of Mount Rushmore's story. It is viewed by many Native Americans not as a shrine of democracy, but as a desecration of a sacred site, a stark reminder of broken treaties and a painful history. The monument therefore exists in a state of tension, representing conflicting narratives of American history. Today, Mount Rushmore stands as a powerful, if controversial, symbol of the nation. It represents an idealized version of American leadership and manifest destiny. It draws millions who gaze up in awe at the immense faces, contemplating the legacy of these four men and the nation they helped shape. It forces us to confront the different ways history is remembered, and by whom, asking us to look deeper than the stone and consider the full, often difficult story of the land itself. We now return to the nation's capital, Washington, D.C., to a monument that serves as the city's soul, the Lincoln Memorial. Situated at the west end of the National Mall, it's not just a tribute to one man, but a hallowed space for national reflection. Its form is that of a classical Greek temple, a design choice by architect Henry Bacon to echo the democratic ideals of ancient Greece, a fitting home for the man who fought to preserve American democracy. Inside this temple sits the iconic statue of Abraham Lincoln, the 16th president. Sculptor Daniel Chester French created a figure that is both powerful and weary. Seated, contemplative, his hands tell a story. One is clenched, representing his strength and determination to see the Civil War through, while the other is open and relaxed, symbolizing his compassionate, welcoming nature. At 19 feet tall, the statue of Georgia marble seems to possess a gravity that fills the entire chamber, drawing the visitor's gaze and demanding quiet introspection. The memorial is more than a statue, it's a text. Carved into the north and south walls of the interior are the full inscriptions of two of Lincoln's most famous speeches. On the south wall, the Gettysburg Address, with its powerful call for a new birth of freedom. On the north wall, his second inaugural address, delivered just a month before his assassination, which pleads for malice toward none, with charity for all. These words are as much a part of the monument as the marble, preserving Lincoln's vision for a unified and merciful nation. But the Lincoln Memorial's significance has grown far beyond its original dedication. It has been transformed into a stage for the American Civil Rights Movement. It was here, on these steps, in 1939, that the great contralto Marian Anderson sang after being barred from Constitution Hall because of her race. And it was here, in 1963, that Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. delivered his "I Have a Dream" speech to 250,000 people, forever linking the memorial with the ongoing struggle for equality and justice. The spot where Dr. King stood is now marked on the steps, a reminder that this monument is not a relic of the past, but a living space where the meaning of Lincoln's legacy is continually redefined. It is a place where Americans gather to protest, to celebrate, and to petition their government, standing in the shadow of the man who fought to ensure that the government would remain of the people, by the people, for the people. It remains one of the most sacred public spaces in the nation. Dominating the Washington, D.C. skyline is our next monument, a simple, elegant, and powerful obelisk, the Washington Monument. It is actually the world's tallest stone structure and obelisk, standing just over 555 feet. It was built to honor George Washington, the commander of the Continental Army, and the first president of the United States. Its design, an ancient Egyptian form, was chosen to represent timelessness and reverence, a fitting tribute to the father of his country. The story of its construction is really a story of perseverance, mirroring the struggles of the young nation itself. The cornerstone was laid in 1848, but construction was plagued by political infighting, a lack of funding, and the interruption of the Civil War. For over 2 decades, the monument stood as an unfinished stump, a public embarrassment, and a symbol of a divided nation. It wasn't until 1876, the nation's centennial, that President Ulysses S. Grant authorized its completion. If you look closely about 150 feet up, you can see a distinct change in the color of the marble. This line marks the division between the pre- and post-Civil War construction phases. The stone from the initial phase, sourced from a quarry in Maryland, was no longer available, and a slightly different colored marble from another quarry had to be used. This visible scar is a permanent reminder of the nation's fracture and eventual reunion, a story of the country written in stone. The monument is honestly an engineering marvel. Its walls, made of marble, granite, and bluestone gneiss, are 15 feet thick at the base and taper to just 18 inches at the top. At its peak is a small pyramid of aluminum, which was a rare and precious metal at the time, a symbol of American ingenuity and industrial prowess. It was, for a time, the tallest structure in the world, a declaration of America's arrival on the global stage. Surrounding its base is a circle of 50 American flags, representing the 50 states, a powerful visual symbol of the Union Washington fought to create, and Lincoln fought to preserve. Visitors can ascend to the observation deck at the top for a breathtaking panoramic view of the capital city he helped envision. The Washington Monument doesn't have the intricate details of other memorials, but its clean, soaring form speaks volumes, pointing to the heavens, as if to represent the lofty ideals on which the nation was founded. At 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue stands a building that is both a home and a global symbol of power, the White House. More than just the official residence and principal workplace of the President of the United States, it is a living museum of American history. Every president since John Adams has lived and worked within its walls, and its rooms have been the backdrop for some of the most critical decisions in the nation's and the world's history. Its design was selected through a competition in 1792, won by Irish-born architect James Hoban. The cornerstone was laid that same year, and construction took 8 years. President George Washington oversaw its creation but, ironically, is the only president never to have resided there. John Adams and his wife Abigail were its first occupants in 1800, moving into a home that was still largely unfinished. The building's white-painted Aquia Creek sandstone gave it its famous moniker. The White House bears the physical scars of the nation's history. During the War of 1812 and 1814, British forces captured Washington, D.C. and set fire to the presidential mansion, leaving it a charred shell. Reconstruction began almost immediately under the guidance of James Hoban, and the story of its burning and rebuilding became a powerful symbol of American resilience. It rose from the ashes, just as the young nation was determined to do. The building itself is much larger than it appears from the iconic North Portico. It has 132 rooms, 35 bathrooms, and 6 levels in the residence. It contains a movie theater, a bowling alley, and a floral shop, among other facilities. It is a workplace for hundreds of staff, a home for the First Family, and a venue for state dinners and major diplomatic events. The West Wing, with the famous Oval Office, is the nerve center of the executive branch of the U.S. government. The White House is often called the People's House, a name that reflects the democratic ideal that the building and its powerful occupant ultimately belong to and serve the citizens of the United States. Its accessibility for public tours, a tradition started by Thomas Jefferson, reinforces this idea. It stands as a symbol of both the continuity of American democracy and the peaceful transfer of power, one of the nation's most cherished principles. Just a mile and a half down Pennsylvania Avenue from the White House stands another potent symbol of American governance, the U.S. Capitol building. With its magnificent white dome, it is one of the most recognizable buildings in the world. This is the seat of the legislative branch of the federal government, home to the U.S. Senate and the House of Representatives. It is here that laws are debated, drafted, and passed. It is, quite literally, the workshop of American democracy. The building's construction began in 1793, with President Washington laying the cornerstone. Like the White House, it was also burned by the British in 1814 and had to be rebuilt. The original, smaller dome was replaced during the Civil War with the massive cast-iron dome we see today. The decision by President Lincoln to continue with this hugely expensive and difficult project in the midst of the war was deeply symbolic. It was a declaration that the Union itself would endure and emerge stronger. Crowning this dome is the Statue of Freedom, a 19.5-foot bronze figure of a woman wearing a helmet and holding a sheathed sword and a laurel wreath. Her placement atop the Capitol during the Civil War was a moment of profound national symbolism. Inside the dome's rotunda is a vast circular space that serves as a gallery of American history, with large paintings and sculptures depicting significant events and figures, from the landing of Columbus to the signing of the Declaration of Independence. The Capitol is more than just the two chambers of Congress. It is a sprawling complex of buildings, tunnels, and offices. The architecture itself, neoclassical in style, was intended to evoke the democratic ideals of ancient Rome and Greece. The two wings, one for the Senate and one for the House, represent the bicameral nature of the American legislature, a system of checks and balances designed by the founders to prevent the concentration of power. The U.S. Capitol has been the site of inaugurations, state funerals, and protests. It is a place where the nation's most contentious debates have unfolded and where its future has been charted. It stands as a testament to the principle of representative government, the idea that citizens can elect leaders to speak for them and shape the laws of the land. Its enduring presence is a symbol of the strength and, at times, the fragility of American democracy. We now travel to Philadelphia, the birthplace of the nation, to see an object that, despite its imperfection, has become a global emblem of freedom, the Liberty Bell. Housed in a dedicated center across from Independence Hall, this one-ton bell is, honestly, one of the most cherished artifacts in American history. Its story is, well, really intertwined with the story of the nation's struggle for independence and its ongoing fight for civil rights. The bell was originally commissioned in 1751 from a London firm to hang in the steeple of the Pennsylvania State House, now known as Independence Hall. It cracked upon its first test ring after arriving in Philadelphia. Local craftsmen John Pass and John Stowe were tasked with recasting it, and it's their version that rang for decades to call lawmakers to their meetings and townspeople to hear the reading of news. Its association with independence is legendary, though perhaps not entirely factual. The popular story holds that the bell was rung on July 4, 1776, to announce the signing of the Declaration of Independence. While historians now believe this is unlikely, the bell was most certainly rung on July 8, 1776, for the first public reading of the Declaration. It was this event that forever linked the bell to the birth of the United States. The famous crack we see today is not the original one. It's actually a repair of a thin crack that appeared sometime in the early 1840s. The bell was rung for the last time on George Washington's birthday in 1846, when this final large fracture silenced it forever. But you know, in its silence, its power as a symbol only grew. Abolitionists seeking to end slavery adopted the bell as their symbol in the 1830s, citing the inscription on its side. That inscription, taken from the Bible's book of Leviticus, reads, "Proclaim liberty throughout all the land unto all the inhabitants thereof." This powerful message became a rallying cry for abolitionists, suffragists, and later civil rights activists. The Liberty Bell, broken and imperfect, became a potent metaphor for a nation that had not yet lived up to its founding promise of liberty for all. It remains a humble yet profound reminder of the ongoing work required to make that promise a reality. Back in Washington, D.C., nestled on the bank of the tidal basin, is a monument dedicated to a man of immense intellect and complexity, the Jefferson Memorial. Honoring Thomas Jefferson, the principal author of the Declaration of Independence, the third U.S. president, and a champion of liberty, education, and democracy, the memorial is a tribute to his contributions to the founding of the nation. Its serene location, surrounded by cherry blossom trees, provides a tranquil space for reflection. The memorial's design, by architect John Russell Pope, is neoclassical, drawing inspiration from the Pantheon in Rome, a style Jefferson himself championed in his own architectural work, such as his home at Monticello and the University of Virginia. The circular open-air structure, with its grand columns and dome, was meant to reflect the Enlightenment ideals that Jefferson so passionately embraced, particularly his belief in reason and individual freedom. At the center of the memorial stands a commanding 19-foot bronze statue of Thomas Jefferson by sculptor Rudolph Evans. He is depicted in a confident stance, holding the Declaration of Independence. He looks out from his memorial across the tidal basin, directly toward the White House. This sightline is deliberate, connecting the author of the nation's founding creed with the seat of executive power he once held. The interior walls of the memorial are inscribed with extensive excerpts from Jefferson's writings, far more than in any other presidential memorial. These passages, chosen to represent his philosophies, touch upon freedom of religion, the importance of education, and his deep-seated skepticism of concentrated power. They showcase the breadth of his intellect and his vision for an agrarian republic of enlightened citizens. However, the memorial, like the man it honors, represents a profound contradiction. The inscriptions speak eloquently of liberty and the rights of man, yet Jefferson was a lifelong slave owner. This duality is central to understanding both Jefferson and American history. The monument presents an idealized version of the man, forcing visitors to grapple with the uncomfortable truth that the architect of American freedom participated in the institution of slavery. It is a beautiful and complicated tribute to a beautiful and complicated man. We now head to the Midwest, to the banks of the Mississippi River in St. Louis, Missouri, to witness a monument that is a masterpiece of modern design, the Gateway Arch. Soaring 630 feet into the sky, it is the world's tallest arch and the tallest man-made monument in the Western Hemisphere. Its graceful, sweeping curve of stainless steel is a powerful symbol of St. Louis's role as the gateway to the West during the 19th century. The monument commemorates the westward expansion of the United States, a period of exploration, settlement, and national growth that was launched by President Thomas Jefferson's Louisiana Purchase in 1803. The arch stands near the starting point of the Lewis and Clark expedition, the famous journey that charted the newly acquired Western Territory. It is a tribute to the pioneers, explorers, and visionaries who pushed the nation's boundaries to the Pacific Ocean. The design was the result of a nationwide competition in 1947, won by the brilliant Finnish-American architect Eero Saarinen. He wanted to create a gateway to the West, a national monument. That would be a landmark of our time. His vision was a catenary curve, the shape a free-hanging chain makes, rendered in gleaming steel. Its simplicity is its genius, a form that is both futuristic and timeless, reflecting the sunlight and the sky. Construction of the arch was an incredible engineering challenge. Beginning in 1963, each leg of the arch was built up simultaneously. As the two legs rose higher and higher, the precision required was immense. The final central piece had to be placed with an accuracy of within a fraction of an inch. The successful completion in 1965 was a triumph of American engineering and a testament to Saarinen's audacious vision. Visitors today can take a unique tram system, a sort of hybrid elevator and Ferris wheel, up through the hollow legs of the arch to a small observation deck at the very top. From there, on a clear day, you can see up to 30 miles in every direction, with the city of St. Louis to the west and the Mississippi River and the plains of Illinois to the east. It provides a stunning perspective, a physical lifting up that mirrors the uplifting spirit of exploration and discovery the arch was built to celebrate. Our final stop on this journey is back on the National Mall in Washington, D.C., at a monument that is profoundly different from all the others. It is not triumphant or towering. It is quiet, somber, and deeply personal, the Vietnam Veterans Memorial. Dedicated in 1982, its purpose is to honor the U.S. service members who fought in the Vietnam War, those who died in service, and those who were unaccounted for. The memorial's design was chosen from over 1,400 submissions in a public competition. The winning entry was from a 21-year-old Yale architecture student named Maya Lin. Her design was radical and controversial at the time. Instead of a traditional heroic statue, she proposed two long black granite walls that sink into the earth, forming a V-shape. The design was meant to be a wound in the earth, symbolizing the gravity of the loss of life and the deep divisions the war caused in American society. The power of the memorial lies in the names. Etched into the polished black granite are the names of more than 58,000 service members who were killed or remain missing in action. The names are listed chronologically by date of casualty, not alphabetically. This design choice creates a journey through the war's timeline, from the first death in 1959 to the last in 1975. As you walk along the wall, the ground descends and the wall of names grows taller, surrounding you, a stark representation of the war's escalating cost. The highly polished surface of the granite acts as a mirror. As you look at the names, you see your own reflection, connecting the past to the present, the living with the dead. It is an intensely interactive experience. Visitors search for the names of loved ones, friends, and comrades. They make etchings of the names on paper, and they leave flowers, letters, and other mementos at the base of the wall, creating a continuous living tribute. The Vietnam Veterans Memorial has become known as the wall that heals. It provided a place for veterans and their families to mourn and for a divided nation to begin a process of reconciliation. It changed the way we think about war memorials, shifting the focus from celebrating military glory to honoring the human cost of conflict. It is a quiet, powerful, and sacred space that acknowledges sacrifice and encourages reflection, a somber and necessary final chapter in our journey. From a Lady of Liberty in a harbor to a healing wall of names, these 10 monuments are far more than stone, steel, and bronze. They are the story of America, written on the landscape. They chronicle a nation's birth, its painful divisions, its bold expansion, and its ongoing struggle to live up to its highest ideals. Each structure tells a piece of the story, a story of democracy, sacrifice, innovation, and the relentless pursuit of freedom. They are not static relics, they are active participants in the present, sparking conversation, debate, and reflection. They remind us that history is not a simple, single narrative. It is complex, contested, and deeply personal. The presidents carved into Mount Rushmore oversaw a history that is celebrated by some and mourned by others. The words of liberty inscribed on memorials were written by men who owned other human beings. These monuments force us to confront these contradictions, to hold both the triumphs and the failures in our hands, and to understand that this is the essence of the American experiment. I encourage you to visit these places, if you ever have the chance. Stand at the feet of Lincoln, touch the names on the wall, look up at the soaring arch. To experience them firsthand is to connect with the past in a tangible way, to feel the weight and the hope of the American story. It's a story that is still being written, a journey that continues with each of us. Thank you for joining me on this one. Good night.